Coming up, a Fargo teacher is on leave and facing a possible firing. What the superintendent has to say about the case. Protecting 40 million turkeys, a new effort aimed at stopping bird flu. And after a long wait, a new business is finally set to open in South Fargo. Hello and welcome to the Nightly Review. I'm Tom Tucker. We begin with a look at tonight's headlines, then a closer look with comments tonight from Senator Kevin Cramer as North Dakota Republicans begin their convention tonight in Bismarck. Cramer is weighing in on the race between fellow Senator John Hoeven and his Republican challenger, State Representative Rick Becker. And in tonight's one-on-one conversation, a focus on how ambulance service providers across the region are struggling because of the labor shortage. But first tonight, this Fargo teacher is on administrative leave and facing a possible firing. Kevin Kennedy is an English and theater teacher at South High. He's accused of making inappropriate comments to students as well as touching students without consent. Superintendent Dr. Rupak Gandhi is recommending Kennedy be fired. The school board is holding a special meeting Tuesday to discuss Kennedy's future. A two-alarm fire at a West Fargo laundromat Thursday night caused minor damage. The blaze broke out at Dosh's Duds in the 100 block of Cheyenne Street in the downtown area. The building houses a laundromat and hair salon. No word yet on what caused the fire and no estimate yet on the cost of the damage. We now know the name of the man who died in a house fire in Clay County last month. He's identified as 76-year-old Holly resident Terry Steinweg. The sheriff says because of the condition of the body found in the fire, the medical examiner was not able to identify the remains using DNA samples and instead used circumstances to make the ID. We're told Steinweg died from smoke inhalation. The Paradiso Mexican restaurant in Fargo has reopened following an electrical fire. Happened on March 23rd. A manager says they officially opened Sunday. They hoped to open sooner but couldn't after finding smoke and water damage was worse than expected. We're told it'll take about 3 months to wrap up all repairs, but the manager says the work should not affect the dining experience. And good news for golfers. Sweet Shots is finally set to open in South Fargo after years of planning and construction work.
We're in a position to finally open and to try and build this and navigate everything with supply side. We all know all the mayhem going out there. If you've tried to build a backyard shed, you run into issues. So, yeah, we're pleased to say we're there. And, next Monday will be our opening day.
General Manager Mark Johnson telling WDAY's The Coffee Club prices to rent a bay can range anywhere from $19 to $49 an hour, depending on the day and time. We're told the first week or so will be first come, first serve. Sweet Shots is set to open on Monday. Young actors and theater goers in the FM area won't be singing in the rain this summer. The Trollwood Performing Arts School says they're postponing this summer's main stage musical because they can't find all the hired help necessary to put on the show and because of the soaring cost of materials to make the sets. But we're told all other summer programs will take place as planned. Senators Cramer and Hoeven are reacting to a new oil policy announced by President Biden. Biden announced he'll release 1 million barrels of oil per day from the Strategic Oil Reserve for the next 6 months. Hoeven says Biden should switch the focus to domestic energy production rather than tapping the Strategic Reserve. Cramer called Biden's move, quote, political gimmickry at its worst. Meanwhile, North Dakota GOP officials say the party will not be changing its endorsement process at this weekend's convention. The state party announced it won't consider a move by a group described as rogue to change the process. The issue highlights a rift between the state GOP and a far-right faction fighting for control of the party. In Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz is taking action aimed at limiting the spread of bird flu. Walz has signed an executive order waiving trucking regulations for birds. The order waives enforcement of certain weight restrictions and hours of service to help get unaffected birds transported to processing facilities. Minnesota ranks first in the nation for turkey production. A Minnesota coalition of highway builders, traffic enforcement, and safety groups are calling on state lawmakers to invest in safer roads. The group visited the state capitol this week and placed a display of 502 traffic cones on the front steps, signifying the number of traffic deaths in the state last year. That's the highest death toll in Minnesota since 2007. In a closer look tonight, comments from U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer as the North Dakota GOP kicks off their convention tonight in Bismarck. Cramer is not up for re-election, but fellow Senator John Hoeven is. Cramer talks about why party delegates in Bismarck tomorrow should endorse Hoeven and not Hoeven's Republican challenger, State Representative Rick Becker.
John Hoeven, not only does he deserve another term, we need him for another term. We need him in this moment that we're in, where we're likely to take control, be the majority again in a year, and the House almost certainly will be in the hands of Republican control, and to combat this crazy administration that we're up against. And he's done a good job, to this point in doing that, in stopping some big bad things from happening, and particularly again on the appropriation side.
Senator Cramer made the comments while appearing on the What's on Your Mind show on AM 1100 The Flag. He praised Hoeven for his work on committees for Senate Appropriations and Agriculture. He also said Hoeven has a strong understanding of economics, partly as a result of being raised in a banking family.
He has a detailed understanding of economics and what makes the economy work. And so when you look at, quote, conservatism, we oftentimes will just look at it as, how loudly you talk about something or how specifically you've either cut or spent money. But remember, there's a whole economy that's at the heart of all of this. And I think, the body of work for John Hoeven over the years is such that we need him for another term.
The endorsement choice between Hoeven and Rick Becker is the only endorsement state GOP delegates need to decide tomorrow. Becker says he will honor the outcome. Senator Hoeven has never lost a statewide race. Here now is a check of the forecast for tonight and tomorrow from meteorologist Justin Storm in the Skywatch Weather Center.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we got a few scattered showers and thunder showers pushing across the state right now. Those will exit our area into Minnesota by about 11 o'clock. After that, we remain cloudy and the winds will be lightening up tonight. We'll drop down to a low of 28. And for your Saturday, the winds will pick back up out of the northwest between 10 and 20. We'll have a high in the lower and mid 40s across the area with partly cloudy skies in the afternoon, but clouds will be increasing throughout the day.
It could happen to you or someone you love. One moment, one diagnosis can change everything. Thankfully, there's a program that helps caring people uplift families through a crisis. Lend a Hand Up, raising financial help and hope through community benefits and online campaigns. A program that boosts generosity so gifts go further. Lend a Hand Up helps you help your neighbors. Learn more and give at lendahandup.org.
Welcome back. Time now for tonight's one-on-one conversation. The focus is the very difficult situation faced by ambulance service providers across the region. My guest is Andrew Berkey. He's operations manager at Jamestown Area Ambulance Service. He says the labor shortage is creating very challenging working conditions for crews who are available, serving communities across North Dakota and Minnesota.
Locally, we were very fortunate to kind of hold off from the struggles that the rest of the industry has been having. We were able to hold off for quite a while, but we couldn't hold off forever. So it's caught up with us. We have full-time openings that we need to be able to fill. And in an ambulance service, it's 24/7. You don't get to take a break. You don't get to say, okay, guys, we're going to close down for a few hours. The operation has to continue. So when you have these openings and an inability to fill those openings, it's an added stress and added weight to the crews that we do have, because the wheels have to keep turning on this. So it's caught up. We've got some positions we need to fill, so we're kind of right there with the rest of the industry. But services have been dealing with this problem across the country, certainly since COVID became an issue, but even well before then. So COVID just kind of exacerbated the things that these services were going through. Because it placed such a larger strain on an already very weak healthcare system. So I mean, it's safe to say that there's no area in this country that has not just been decimated by the last couple of years here.
So across our region, are you aware of shifts going unfilled because of the labor shortage?
Oh yeah, everywhere. So if for example, we staff 3 ambulances 24/7. If I can't staff one of those trucks, that just means that the 2 trucks that I can staff are going to be busier. They're going to have to take more call volume and become more available to answer the 911 calls that do come in.
Ambulance work is tough enough as it is, but when crews are not available, putting additional stresses and burdens for crews that are working, that can certainly only add to the stress levels. Can you give us an idea of where ambulance drivers are at right now generally when it comes to their physical, emotional, and mental health working in the conditions they're working in?
To some degree, people in EMS are conditioned to face adversity, to face challenges. You have to be in this line of work. It's just the nature of what this is. But they've certainly had to adapt over the last few years and to strengthen that the ability to face adversity. But it seems to be one more compounding stress after another. There's days these guys have to operate with little to no sleep. As much as we want to stay out of those scenarios so that we keep everyone safe. That's the reality of what this is sometimes, especially like I said, during the height of COVID, when EMS was really being relied on to keep our hospitals open, to keep those ER rooms and those ICU beds available. That meant shifting patients all across the state, sometimes even out of state. And you do that with a short-staffed EMS service, you're putting providers on the roads for a really long time. Call volumes went up. Our call volume increased 150 calls last year. Not all COVID, but certainly COVID played a significant role in that. And then just the acuity level of these calls. We're dealing with patients who are constantly on ventilators. That those are much more stressful types of calls to deal with. Now, that's gotten a lot better for us recently, the COVID patients and COVID numbers, but COVID just placed so many other compound stresses, like I said, on an already stressed out system. So these guys are tired, they're exhausted, they've had to sacrifice a lot of time with their families and just their own time to kind of regenerate, recuperate.
So would ambulance drivers and others who work in the industry say they're underpaid?
I can without a doubt tell you that they're underpaid. I mean, I've been in EMS since 2014. And I mean, we make decent money, we can survive, but the things that we have to witness, the amount of time and energy that we have to train and keep up with the healthcare advancements, the amount of time we have to sacrifice away from our family. I mean, the average career in EMS, and this is a crazy statistic that I can't believe no one is paying attention to, the average career length of someone in EMS is 5 years. And that's because they either get an injury, a physical injury that they cannot recover from, or just the mental toll of it that they have to get out. And that we could talk all day about why that number is 5 years, but there is a toll here that we need to recognize. So no, they definitely don't get paid what they should be getting paid, but that's because ambulance services aren't getting the money back in that they need to continue to operate.
What is it like responding to accident scenes where you witness death and serious injury, or maybe where children are involved, where you see horrific things that the average person never has to encounter?
That's a great question. That's why we emphasize our training programs as hard as we do, and we don't cut corners. And because when you come across something like that, your training has to be so ingrained in your head that it's almost like an autopilot takes over. There is no time for emotion. There is no time for, oh my goodness, what am I looking at? It's act, respond, do what needs to be done right there in that moment. And then afterwards, then it's time to process the things you've seen. We have tons of programs out there to help take care of our providers. Me personally, I go to therapy at least twice a year, whether I think I need them or not, just as a mental check-in. Hey, here's the things that have compounded in my head over the last 6 months. And just you deal with it by taking really good care of yourself, by knowing who you are, being really honest with yourself. I'm really big into working out and trying to just mentally have that escape and that release to keep me healthy and to keep me going. And these guys are too. You have to have this level of resiliency, and if you don't know who you are as an individual, it's really hard to be resilient. So the problem is we can only ask them to be resilient for so long. And that's why these conversations are so important. Because yes, you're absolutely right. These guys see things that human beings shouldn't have to see. And they see it often. And they have to cope with it. And that's a battle that only they will ever understand. And that in and of itself isn't necessarily fair. Even though, we sign up for this, we love what we do. But now to put all this other stuff on the system and on these providers, it's unbearable for most people. There's a reason people aren't lining up at the door to do this.
I'd like to thank Andrew Berkey, Operations Manager at Jamestown Area Ambulance Service, for joining me for tonight's conversation. Berkey says in order to help ambulance service providers remain in business, cities should treat them as essential services and provide funding, similar to public support provided to police and fire departments. Well, that will do it for this Friday, April 1st, 2022. Thanks for watching the Nightly Review. I'm Tom Tucker. Have a great weekend.